connection and support for people. The more we can share those things, the more it could help people right now, wherever they are at. So feel free to share whatever you're doing. And you might not think it's a whole lot, but I guarantee it's going to help someone.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So welcome, everybody. We're going to dive right in. Some of you were on the webinar with us last week, and really this is an initiative that, kind of flows from Connie's heart and mine with respect to managing the mayhem. We find ourselves in a moment in history that's probably unique to most of us, depending on our age. I imagine none of us on this webinar have been through a time quite like this. I guess the closest parallel they're saying would be the Second World War. And I'm not sure if we've been there. I know I haven't. Connie might have been. She's definitely wiser than me, but probably not older. And, we really just thought, how can we support people? Because Wellness Innovate, our focus is mental health in the workplace. And people's workplaces have been completely disrupted through this. And whether you're working or not, whether you've been able to make that transition or not, every single one of us have been impacted by this. And we don't know how long it's going to go. And so really, how can we pull together and support each other, which is, of course, the hallmark of resilience. It's not so much about controlling everything around you, but how can you bounce back in the midst of it? And so, today we're really excited because we are going to be focusing on frontline workers. I think what's nice about, who we have, and we'll introduce our guests in just a moment, but, we have folks who are not only focused on healthcare, but also on the front line in the social services sector. And that's an area that, Connie and myself have lots of experience in. I was a frontline worker for many years at the largest homeless shelter in Canada called the Calgary Drop-In Center. And I was also an executive there as well. And so kind of got to see it from both sides. And I know that Connie has a long and storied history. So Connie, what do you want to say here today just to open us up together?
Well, I want to remind us all that we're more resilient than we think. And today is about learning tools of how. And, we're not going to solve the world's problems in an hour or less, but we are going to tackle this head on. I know my husband right now, he works for the Calgary Dream Center, and just watching how hard they've been working and figuring things out, it just, as much as there's a lot of talk right now about the challenges, I just can't help but pause and celebrate how innovative people are being right now and how people are rising to the occasion. Heroes always rise in crisis. And so we want to bring out the hero in you today. And so we're super, super excited to get this going.
Absolutely. So why don't we do that, Connie? Why don't you go ahead and introduce one of our guests, and then I'll introduce the other.
Okay. Well, I am so pleased to introduce you to Tanya. Tanya and I met way back. She is just an amazing individual. Not only is she the executive director of Brown Bagging It for Calgary's Kids, which feeds hungry kids, but she is also the founder and owner of People-Centered Leadership. And I have been blessed underneath everything she has spoken. She is authentic and collaborative. She's built a career around her passion for empowering people, organizations, and communities to be the best that they can so we can create good in the world. And that's why she is here today. She's privileged to be a part of Brown Bagging It, doing meaningful action in Calgary by providing healthy, nutritious lunches to kids who would otherwise go hungry. She has proudly led the organization for the past 7 years with a vision that communities ensure that kids don't go hungry. When she's not focusing on that, she has a passion to help influence a more authentic and human practice of leadership. She refers to this as people-centered practice. The guiding principles are listening to yourself, know your purpose, care for others, so that we can create an opportunity and be better together. Tanya can also be found adventuring with her life partner, having family time with her blended family of 4 young adult kids, enjoying time with friends, giving back to the people of her life, being active outdoors as well. And I know, Tanya, your your partner is a first responder as well.
Yes. Yep, he is.
So we would love to hear your thoughts. We want to dive into the question of what does managing the mayhem, what does mental wellness look like for someone like your husband, like you, like the people out there on the front lines?
Absolutely. That's great. And that's great. And so then also our second panelist today, you can see on the screen, her name is Jane. And I've known Jane and worked with Jane for about, I'm going to say 3-4 years now. And I was going to say we go back to the 80s, but that's not actually true. But it just maybe would have liked.
I don't think I was born then, Abe.
Jane might not have been alive in the 80s. We're not sure. But Jane's a registered nurse. She's currently residing in Vancouver. She has a master's degree also in public health and occupational health and safety, and has long had a real passion for psychological safety in the workplace. So she's worked both as a frontline registered nurse and a clinical leader. And, that I think opened up her eyes to the need for advocacy and policy attention on psychological health and wellness in the workplace. And she's also the vice president of business development for Wellness Innovate, which is our initiative here. And, she's just a good human who wants to make a difference in the world, and currently is, I would say, on one of the front lines of COVID-19 in Canada as a director of care in a nursing facility, a nursing home in North Vancouver or West Vancouver?
West Vancouver.
Yeah. So this is going to be a really rich conversation, because we're not just bringing people here who have academic knowledge, as great as that is. Let's talk to people who are right in the field. So maybe what we could do is just maybe, Tanya, tell us, we've given you a bio intro, but tell us kind of, from the heart, what it is you really do, and brown bagging for Calgary kids. And then Jane, you can just transition and just do the same and tell us about yourself.
Thanks, Connie and Abe, and hello, everyone. So brown bagging for Calgary's kids, we feed about 5,000 kids every day in Calgary that would otherwise go hungry at school. And as we know, school is not in. So we do that really with the power of community. Most of our work is being done around the community, businesses, church groups, retirement residents that feed hungry kids in schools. And now with the world changing as it is, we very quickly need to adapt of how we can find ways to still reach out to those kids when school's out. We still feel that is definitely our mandate, our vision, and our goal here is to make sure we reach out to those kids. We've had to adapt very quickly to how we're reaching out to those kids. And also, as I'm sure many of you can relate to, a team that's normally in a kitchen space to some office space to now our remote. How do we build team and effectiveness and care for everybody's stress and anxiety that's real for my team? So we are working to find new ways to reach our kids, and that looks like we were able to get some food out to the kids before the schools closed. And then also communicate to the schools and the parents to sign up for grocery gift cards, so we can be mailing grocery gift cards to families. We've reached, I think we've reached about 1,500 kids in that, which is excellent, but still a huge gap into the 5,000 almost that we're feeding. And then we're looking to launch a program called Food Finder YYC, which is a program where kids can text the word food to a number, have a conversation, and find out what restaurant in their community they can go to and safely get that food. And still trying to do this with love and care, and the reality that everybody's living with this sense of anxiety and fear right now. So that's kind of the closed notes version of brown bagging and what's happening with us now. And as Connie mentioned, I have a leadership belief and practice. It's about listening to yourself, knowing your knowing your purpose, and caring for others. So listening to yourself, how are you doing self-awareness and self-care now as a leader is a huge part to this. But yeah, that's kind of the version of what's present for me in my world right now. Jane, I think you're up.
Thank you, and how about thank you so much. And how about you? Jane?
So before I delve into myself, do we have any healthcare workers here? And if they are, please say hi in the message. And I just want to acknowledge, if we do have any healthcare workers, that you know, I am so proud of all of us to be able to mobilize and become a cohesive unit. You know, I see frontline workers joining conference calls with the healthcare authority every single day at 10 a.m. to talk about what are some of the challenges, what are the updates, you know, and just the tremendous amount of efforts you have put out. I just want to say thank you to all of you. And I also want to extend my thanks to all of the essential service team and employees. You know, people like Connie's husband, right, who has to be there, people like teachers who still has to work at home. So really just, you know, my deepest respect to all the different healthcare professions that has to work in this kind of condition. So what it looks like here, it's precarious and it is very nervous-wracking, especially for both management and frontline care staff. And it's especially challenging for management because as leaders, we have to stay sane for our frontline care staff. We have to be the confident one. We have to be the voice and the reason to make sure that they are like relaxed and at peace and they have all the information that they need. And it's about balancing the shortage of staff and trying to keep the quality of care at bay, and at the same time preventing like outside people or visitors and viruses coming into our facility. And currently our entire facility is on complete lockdown. We have family rioting outside, wanting to see their family members, and they have no way of reaching out to them. One of the things that we have implemented here to allow residents to connect with their family members is to purchase iPads. But as you know, because of shortage of staffing and the inability for these seniors to be able to access iPads, and also they're just they don't know how to use iPads. It's really hard for them to connect with their loved ones. So, I mean, not only staff and management are suffering, but the families and the residents are suffering. And I'm seeing all of that. And, you know, as the director of clinical care here, it has been very, very challenging for me to see everyone going through this. And as the leader, I have to keep it together, right? I have to be the positive person. I have to be the motivational person, the person that has to be calm and composed all the time, right? And then when I get home at night, I just want to like bang my head against the wall. So that's what it's been like here. And with a bunch of, and every single day we've been getting very different and inconsistent messages from the health authority, Ministry of Health. Every single day, communication changes, messaging changes. And I'll give you an example of what that looks like. 2 days ago, we had a directive from the healthcare authority saying no healthcare workers can work in multiple sites. So they have to choose one. So what that means is if they choose one, then another care facility will lose that staff. And also the care workers will also lose half of their wages. So because of that directive, we lost 26 staff. So that's how short we are right now, 26 care staff and nurses. On top of that, 2 days later, we got another directive saying that's all suspended from the healthcare authority. So now staff don't have to choose anymore, they can go back. Well, see, for me, that is very, very concerning because these staff have already been exposed to other facilities and now they're expected to come back into our home. So as a leadership, we had to make the tough decision and say, no, these staff cannot come back, right? To protect ourselves, to protect our seniors and the rest of our staff here, we had to just close that door and make that tough decision. So every day we're making really challenging decisions here. And, you know, what's been really helping me to get through all this is to really find support with all my team members. So it includes daily debriefing, daily like check-ins, right? And daily meetings with your team, about, you know, what are the updates, what are the concerns, what could we be doing, and just being really vigilant and prepared, and just keeping positivity and really showing appreciation for everyone around us. And you know, as hard as it is, but this is an opportunity for us all to bond as a team and to come together, right, and rise above the occasion. So, you know, I see it as a blessing in disguise some ways, because I have gotten so much closer with a lot of my teammates here because of this crisis. They're here right now at the L2C community. So back to you, Abe and Connie.
So what is your team saying right now? Like, what is some of the stuff that they're going through, your team, Jane?
Yeah, well, they're going through, so there's been a lot of actually workplace drama, because we have members, like staff, care staff, that they have families who've worked in other care facilities. And because of this knowledge, we have internal staff that are shunning those workers, you know, telling them they should not come back. There's bullying, harassment even in the workplace. So there's a lot of toxicity going on right now internally.
Right. And so how about you, Tanya? What are you noticing?
What I'm noticing for the team is every single person has major stress and chaos in their home, right? So what's happening for job security, for health issues, for isolation issues, family issues, young kids at home. How do you do remote work when you've got babies at home? How do you do remote work when you've got to do some education for your middle-aged kids? I don't know, for me, how do we do this with young adults in the house? So the reality for us is that each team has a very real situation that they're dealing with at home, and then how they're showing up at work. We put a plan in place very quickly last week about how to still be an effective, connected team remotely. And so some of the things that we're doing is, for one, I would say as a leader is I do need to be my best self and show up. So how do I get anchored and get clear in my head and my heart to show up so that I can be there for them and be authentic. And I might not have all the answers, and that's okay. I might say, I don't know that right now, or I'm feeling a little bit scared as well. Being really transparent in that, but still showing up for that, and then knowing my safe place, because my feel for all of us is we all need a place to fall and crumble in this when that fear and anxiety is real. But as a leader, knowing how we need to show up for our people, and then knowing where our safe place is to then get anchored and grounded again. So keeping that really present for myself and inviting that for the team. And then remotely, we were already doing daily check-ins on Slack, which we're still continuing to do. The team asked for that. And then we now do an hour call a week that is a caring connect. And it's us all just getting online, and we're just, how are you doing? Each person has 3 minutes to share what's present for them. No judgment, no, we had tons of tears yesterday on the call, right? Just check in, how are you doing? What's present for you in your heart and your mind? And then continuing with team meetings. So connection, updates, communication. Communication, I think, is key right now, and from the leader as well. So I've done lots of little videos for them. Just, hey, this is what's happening. This is my Monday morning message, right? Like just communication, updates, even if I don't even know all the answers. So those are some of the pieces right now that we're really trying to build in, because a lot of the world is figuring out how to do work remotely and still be effective, and still care for everybody's mental health. So those are a few of the pieces that we're putting into place.
I think you bring up a really good point there, Tanya, when it comes to leading. I think a lot of leaders think, no, I need to be strong right now. And I really like what you said about a safe place, that we all need a safe place, and to know that right now this is a big deal, that what we're going through and meeting people. Jane, the responsibility that you have on your shoulders is no small thing. And when we're able to go to the emotions that we're feeling, then we're much more able to hold the emotions that other people are showing as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think giving people just a place to be heard. And as a leader, that is our responsibility, but that's still a lot to carry. Like I say, none of us are firing on all cylinders right now. So then how do I hold that for my team? Because that is my responsibility. But then where am I going to make sure I'm still doing okay? Because I still need to show up and be resilient through whatever this is going to look like. So I think giving space to hear our people right now is very important.
And what is that safe place? And I'd love to hear from both Jane and Tanya. What is that safe place? What does mental wellness? I think I like that word, safe place, because mental wellness even sounds like effort. I must work out. I must eat well. I must meditate. I must. And I think right now the musts are actually damaging. What does the wellness safe place look like for you? What could you tell people about that? Especially those on the front line.
You can go ahead, Jane.
Oh yeah, sure. I think when people think of a safe place, they think of a physical location, right? But when I think of the physical place, it's much more than that. It can be an emotional safe place. It can be a mental safe place. It can be a personal or relationship safe place. And for me, I want to cultivate a safe place for my staff, both emotionally and physically. Physically, it's a little bit hard to do at this point right now because we're trying to really limit our congregation of staff to no more than like 3-4 people. And, so really having those daily debrief sessions are even very difficult for our staff. But I leave my office door open. I have a complete open door policy, and I go around every single day, every single morning, and in the evening shift, I talk to everyone. I ask them, what can I do to support you, right? Like, it's not about, micromanaging anymore. It's not about like, are you doing the care plan? Are you doing your job, right? It's really about what can I do to help each and every one of you going through this tough time, right? So I think that the workers do appreciate that. And oftentimes, they really don't have much to say, and they just really want you to, they want to know that you're present, right? And I think presence as a leader is very, very important, right? And just being available and accessible. And that's really vital. Another key thing to really keep the workers in check with their nerve and anxiety is to have consistent communication, right? So, on a daily basis, I get like 20 different emails from Ministry of Health Authority. And sometimes these communications are completely inconsistent, right? So, for me, I don't want to be really relaying this information to my frontline workers. They're already very overwhelmed with their patient load, with shortage of staff and overtime. I need to be consistent and concise with my message. I need to let them know what they expect to hear from me, which is, okay, so today, we got to go day by day as well. It's got to be like, today, no one can have lunch in the staff room, because staff, that's a high risk congregation area, right? They want to hear things like that. And then also they want to hear about tips that they can utilize or that are effective to help them prevent bringing infection home or bringing infections in the facility. Again, they have to be very tailored, right, to these individuals' needs. And care staff, again, they have very limited time. They don't have time to read through 34 pages of documents and directions about how to, wash your hands, right? So, it's getting a little bit creative with communication. But what we do here to make sure the message are consistent is to have just a COVID board on every single nursing unit. And every day our management team would go around and just update the board. And at the same time, we would, verbally communicate the information from the board to the staff to ensure that there's a knowledge translation, right? So yeah, it's really just being proactive at keeping them in the loop, keeping them informed. And I always tell my staff, always prepare for the worst and hope for the best, right? So we treat like our facility as if it's actually in an outbreak right now. So everything is locked down. When staff come in here, they have to change. They have to put all their their clothing from home into a bag and then change into their own scrubs. We're going 10 steps beyond what is recommended right now by the Minister of Health.
That's great.
Yes, but we're doing this is because we want to be prepared though when the real thing hits, right?
Yeah.
And when it does hit, at least we know we just need to continue doing what we're doing without having to scramble and be in reactive mode, right? We want to be proactive. So I think that definitely calmed a lot of people's nerves down. And I made a little document just for both management and frontline teams. Just a little guide, and I'm hoping to share with all of you after the webinar. And again, we need to tackle workplace wellness in at two different organizational levels, right? One is at the management level, and then the other is at the frontline worker level, because we all have very different roles, right, in the organization. So we need to be very clear about our roles and responsibilities right now. And as management, we're all I know Connie, Abe, and Tanya, you guys are all been leaders and have many experience in that. And as management during crisis time, we have to buckle up. We have to check out our emotional baggage at home. We have to check out that insecure voice and that anxiety. And it's a time to develop ourselves, I think, as a professional and as a leader. So I'm really kind of tapping into this opportunity to personally develop myself as a confident leader during time of crisis. So just learning a lot. And I've also learned to really be confident in my decisions, because I am making essentially life-changing decisions that can really impact the health of my seniors and my staff. But again, I have to make sure my decisions are in line with my organizational values and my personal values. And that's really how I truce my decisions on a daily basis. And I try not to go back in my decisions. Again, like that situation with sharing staff between different facilities, I put my foot down and said, no, the decision's already made. The staff made their choices. We're just going to keep it.
That's awesome.
Right? So at the end of the day, we have to put our foot down. And then also just have a plan. So I have a huge pandemic plan where everything is written down. So I find comfort in having things in front of me, right? So that you don't have 10 million things running through your brain. It also helps. And lastly, the biggest thing for us to do is to show appreciation to our staff, but not only to them, but also to each other and to yourselves, right? And really, we got to take care of ourselves. So whether, it's to learn how to meditate more, or to, pick up more at-home exercises, whatever it is to bring joy in your life when you're not at work. I think that's really, really important. So I hope I'm not missing too much. And lastly, for employees, frontline staff, really just to trust your leadership team and the rest of your team, because you can't go through this alone. You need each other to paddle through this.
Great.
Yeah, I think
thank
that's
you.
Much, that Jane mentioned, we're gonna email that out. So we always email out the webinar, the recording, and we'll be sending that out, Jane. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
And how about you, Tanya? What are you noticing with frontline workers here in the social services sector in Calgary? Because they they are really under it right now as well, you know? So what are you seeing?
Yeah, well, I'll sort of answer that sort of even with Connie's comment just about that safe place piece in terms of how we create that safe place. So I think it's an opportunity for leaders to demonstrate how they're creating a safe place to help our teams and our frontline workers, so that to give them that permission to know what they need to do, to whatever that looks like. So for me, what I'm doing to create safe spaces for myself as a leader is I'm giving myself some permission to not be firing on all cylinders, to be feeling a little bit of fear and anxiety, to not know all the answers right away, or maybe not at all. Maybe I have to say, I don't know, and I need to go check that out, or thank you for that awareness. So really giving myself that permission to show up how I need to show up, and very authentically and vulnerably in some ways. I think for me as a leader, a safe place is also looked at some of my routines. So where am I? You know, we know that we, you know, like eating well, drinking water, moving our bodies, meditating are really important things to do. So really trying to be very intentional to still do those pieces, but also give myself permission to know that a day or a moment might not happen exactly that way. And then also that's also that leadership for the team to see that, like, this is what's happening, this is how we're doing that, for them to care for themselves. And I think a couple pieces too that we've just put in is part of who we are as a family and as a team at home, that helped me with how I show up as the leader is there's a nightly walk, and we talk, and we just unpack the day. We you know, what's present, what's scary. There's been lots of tears on those walks. There's been some frustration. And then typically, you know what, when you move your body for a little bit of time and you can process things, you feel better. So and then with that, end the day with a gratitude. What are we grateful for today? And then even the next piece, what do we want to accomplish tomorrow? Because some of those days when things are changing, sometimes hourly for us, I look at Monday when we had a plan to send out some food and gift cards to kids in one of our school boards. That got stopped literally in the middle of a meeting, and we had to quickly shift. So what we want to accomplish in a day, even if you have small tasks, maybe that someday it's making your bed, right? That might be all it is. If you're at home or whatever those pieces are. So keeping those pieces really, those are the ways to create some of that physical and emotional safety. And I feel that my role and responsibility and opportunity as a leader is to show up that way for my team, so that they then, as frontline workers, they can go do what they need to do to flex their schedules. So, like I said, with kids and different pieces, it's okay to flex the schedules. Supporting the team in technology. I've heard tons of in Calgary and some of the nonprofits and in our sector, remote. How do we? There's lots of anxiety around just technology, setting up Zoom calls and webinars and remote teams for connection and collaboration. So let's do some training and communication and identify that the learning curve will be very steep for some of us. So and supporting the team in that, giving them the permission to have those pieces. We also, in some of our online communication, we do a lot of celebration. So who are we celebrating on the team? Who are we celebrating? And we've had so many amazing stories of people wanting to help brown bagging right now, and reach out to these kids and find creative ways to reach out. So celebrating those, keeping that, very mindful of that. And those are ways, again, as a leader, to make sure we're dealing with this mayhem well, and then how do we inspire, influence that for our frontline workers and our teams to also be in that place with some boundaries.
So one of the things I've noticed in this particular crisis, and you know, is just the amount of fear, you know, and you know, and I mean, I was in the you know, at the Calgary Drop-In Center when we went through the flood, and when we went through Norwalk, which was a major issue. but you didn't sense anywhere close to the level of fear. Like there was concern, and there was obvious, self-awareness about cleanliness and hygiene and making sure that you were taking care of yourself. But how do you, the level of fear here is kind of unprecedented in my opinion. I'm not sure that that's helping us, because, the research shows that when people are operating in a place of fear, they don't tend to make great decisions, but it is what it is. We have this relentless media barrage, which is just smacking people every time they turn on the television. So how do you help people manage the fear and yet still take appropriate precautions, right? Because the fear can serve a purpose of keeping people highly attentive, but that same fear and anxiety will actually destroy their immune system to be able to actually fight this thing. So what are your thoughts on that, Tanya?
So I would say simply probably two things is set a boundary of checking in on the news twice a day and then turn it off. Right, and be intentional, put a funny movie on, put some good music on, have a dance party. I'm sure Connie's having lots of dance parties in her kitchen. So that's a simple thing to manage the fear, because we can't sit in it forever. It will get the best of us. And then, you know what, there's another, so Tim Ferriss, who's a 4-hour work week kind of guy. If you Google Tim Ferriss, and we can probably send this out too, he has a great TED Talk on fear setting. So how we shift our minds into identify the fear, and then what are the processes? How are you going to mitigate it? What's the worst case scenario? What if the worst case scenario happens? What are you doing about that? And it is a really powerful exercise to go through if people are really being captivated by the fear. Go online, watch Tim's TED Talk, and it really helps walk through managing that fear a little bit in a different way. And I know we've done that personally at home for some of the stuff, even with Jerry and his job. I've done that. That's some of the verbal conversations we'll have when we walk, is just mitigating that fear and really coming out of it, just not letting ourselves sit in it very intentionally. A couple little pieces there.
Thanks for that. And Tanya, what was the name of the TED Talk again?
So it's Tim Ferriss. I'll make sure I link you in and we'll send it out, Abe. But it's Tim Ferriss, and it's called Fear Setting. The exact name of the TED Talk, I'm not sure. I think if you probably Google Tim Ferriss Fear Setting, it's one of the ones that come up. But.
And then Connie, we don't want to discount. Your husband is right in the middle of this sector as well. And what are your thoughts about how people can manage and conduct themselves, obviously professionally, and everyone is acting like heroes out there, still doing their job in face of tremendous adversity, but maintain their own mental health?
Well, I'm really proud of my husband because, like he had to work all weekend and he had to work nights, so all night Saturday night they were fumigating the place. But when he gets home, whenever he is able to get home, so if that's at 8 o'clock at night or at 5 o'clock at night, he turns off. He is present with us. We still keep our family routine, which is so important for our kids. Our kids need to feel safe. And how do our kids feel safe? By predictability. And so he's been doing a great job of that. Even though he's on call, he will answer a phone call if he needs to, because that's just the line of work. But he's put team members in place. They have tag teamed really well. They've delegated really well if there is something that goes on, because there have been layoffs as well at the Dream Center. And so the workload increases as there's layoffs, as everyone is probably experiencing. And so to really lean into your team and to figure out, okay, how are we going to delegate this now? What are our boundaries? I love that was mentioned, where we stop and where we start. These are really, really important things, because you're not good for anyone tired. I remember my mom was a registered nurse, and Jane, you probably know, you can't mess up a medication. You can't come to work exhausted. And so having that having your rest is just so important too.
And I just want to add though, our frontline workers do have an advantage compared to others who have to stay home, right? It's that we have the face-to-face social interaction with everybody here. And I think that is the added bonus to this. And also they're paid, right? They're paid to be here. I know a lot of service industry workers, you know, who work in like hotels or restaurants, they can't go to work. They're not getting income. So there's that piece. And I think we just have to be grateful every day and remind us of all the fortunate things that we have in our lives that some of those other people may not have.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. Sorry, Connie, go ahead.
No, I was just thumbs up to that, Jane.
Yeah. Well, you know, we're really grateful. I mean, with Wellness Innovate, we're keeping this webinar happening each week on Wednesdays at noon. And I think what we're going to be doing is taking a look at different parts of sort of the society that we live in terms of segments of the economy, right? And next week, we want to continue with our focus on frontline workers and people who are connected in healthcare. You know, it seems every week things are changing. You know, interesting, you know, when you talk about resilience, you know, resilience is a word that is used a lot. And the good news is it's been quite researched, right? It's not a mystery what it actually is or how we develop it. I mean, resilience is one of those things that you and I can cultivate, right? It's not something that, you know, you're born with, you know, it's not something that comes as a result of privilege. It's something that we choose, you know, and it's like a muscle. And so I'm really grateful that both Jane and Tanya have shared a lot of sort of resiliency muscle building techniques. And what I've heard both of you say over and over again is how important it is to communicate. And, you know, I've been one of these folks. I think as soon as I heard the term social distancing, it was like 10 days ago, I shot a video like the next day and posted it. And I said, this is the worst advice I've ever heard in my life. I don't care who you are, you know, how smart you think you are. That's because language matters, right? Language matters. I get it. You know, I'm a public official, a health official. But honestly, they need to be saying, and what I said at the time is physical distance, right? I get it. We need physical distance because this is a virus, but social distancing, you know, is not good. And so thanks, Jane and Tanya, for really affirming that we need to be connected, but we have to be safe in that. And so, you know, it may be electronic, it may be through social media. And yet people, if they're isolated in this time, it can only lead to downstream impact that I think will be far greater than what we're seeing with coronavirus. And this is one thing that I don't think a lot of people are talking about is we have this immediate need, and it's kind of like the cure is almost worse than the disease. So let's shut everything down, throw everybody out of work, massively impact our economy. And I'm really curious about, you know, because a lot of people now are saying, you know, okay, so how long are we isolating, you know, and so we need to keep talking about resiliency. Any final thoughts from anyone on this idea of resiliency?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just I do have a thought. It's not really a thought, but maybe it's a perspective. We also build resilience through hardship, right? I mean, this is the experience that we're gonna cultivate, that resilience. So when something like this happens again, we're fully equipped and mobilized to act without the same fear. And it's almost like becoming immune to the virus, right? Because once you get it, you're, you know, most likely you won't get, but although I did hear about the coronavirus that you may get it again, even after a couple months. So, but you do get my analogy. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my final word to that.
And how about you, Tanya? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Hardship. When there's no hardship, there's no resilience. That's why we're finding our young people are so less resilient, because they haven't had to overcome a lot of challenges because, wrapping people in bubble wrap doesn't work. And so absolutely think of right now as building your capacity. If you think of it that way, what an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Yeah, the last two things I would add is, Abe, I love the language of physical distancing. I think that is a much better term than social distancing. I know I'll say that we live across the street from Nose Hill Park, so as I say, it's our backyard, spend lots of time in there. I will tell you, and I've kind of made it my personal mission to be the friendliest runner in the park. And the last week or so, walking in there, everybody waves and says hi from a physical distance. So it's not a social distance. So you know what, be that person, be physically distant, but not socially distant, and wave, say hi, smile at people in this time. Because it does actually warm my heart that in this time, everybody, even from the path further down the line, people are still waving and saying hi. So that's great. And then, yeah, I also do have the belief that in the toughest times is where we learn and we grow and we find the opportunities. So I know that's a mindset shift. But if we think about this is with so much care and concern for people in the world, and the kids we feed and everything everybody's going through, this is an opportunity to find where we can learn and grow, come together, find opportunities, and that's exactly where the resilience is built. So to be very cognizant and intentional and try to help shift your mind on those pieces.
That's great.
Shannon Hughes had a really great question of how people who are not on the front lines, how do we support? And interestingly enough, that seems to be the question of the year. How do we support those who are in it? Any thoughts on that?
Sorry, what was hi Shannon, by the way, but what was the question?
She asked how does someone who's not on the front line support right now those who are?
Support the front line people?
Yeah, or I would even add support in general. If someone's suffering, if someone's feeling, how do we support?
Great question. My answer would be find the ways to do what you can to offer care and love, whatever that looks like. So I know mail is an essential service. You can still mail a card. Right? I know flower deliveries are still happening, so find those ways. Checking in, using social platforms to just say thanks to Jane, to anybody's team or anybody that is in the front line. Say thanks. I know when we've gone to the grocery store, we're saying thanks to those grocery attendants because they're still there working lots of long hours too. So just showing appreciation and gratitude in unique ways, I think is a great support, because I know nobody feels alone. So then that is encouraging. Those encouraging words or small actions do help teams and frontline workers that are in the thick of it.
Yeah. And what really saddens me is, especially during this time of stress and crisis, people are not able to give each other gifts or give each other hugs, right? And those things are so vital to keep each other's spirit alive and happy. But what a system I came up with though is you don't have to suspend all those gestures. You can actually send someone flowers, but you need to let them know, keep the flowers in a quarantine zone for like 2-3 days until the virus dies off its surface, and then you can touch and smell them. Right? So there are a lot of ways to still receive, those little small gestures while being safe at the same time.
That's right. That's right. Well, thanks everybody. Thank you so much for, your great insight, Tanya and Jane, much appreciated. And as always, I know we all love and appreciate Connie, and, just encourage you to stop by our website, wellnessinnovate.com. It's a fine looking website, but don't worry. we're not going to try to sell you anything. As a matter of fact, we have some things that we'd like to give you when you go there, and you know, really just support and reaching out, you know, and interesting. Want to let you know that Connie or myself would be more than happy to come and work with your team at no cost through this, you know, doing webinars and support through times of trauma. I know yesterday I was on line with 15 senior business people from Okotoks, you know, who are just, you know, I mean, Alberta itself is in a very interesting time. When you think all the way back to the flood of 2013 until this year, we've just had one crisis after another. And you know, the trauma is stacking on top of the trauma, on top of the trauma. And I do think, you know, sometimes if you're a leader, if you're an executive or just a member of a team, you just need a safe place to talk. And it was really cool to see some people just shed some tears yesterday and just open up. And it was all on Zoom. It was really kind of cool, but it just felt like people had a bit of a breakthrough because they've just been working so hard trying to carry the load for everyone else. And of course, we know that's what frontline workers are doing as well. And so if you manage a team and just want us to facilitate something, again, it's not about money. It's about supporting community at this time. Reach out. Connie's email is really easy. It's Connie@wellnessinnovate.com. And any final thoughts from you, Connie, as we wrap this up today?
Well, just stay tuned. We're here next week as well. We want to continue to be a support. We want to have the conversations throughout the week. If something you see is working, please share it with us. We want to be a beacon of good news. We also want to hear your thoughts on what's challenging. We want to problem solve with you. You're not alone in this. Let us come alongside. And like Abe said, we're just doing this right now just because we really want to see you succeed. Next week, we're on, same time. And then in 2 weeks, we have Dr. Wayne Hammond joining us. He is a resilience expert, and we definitely want you to join us for that. We are charging for that one $8 just because he is a doctor and he is absolutely, he is known for his work. And so you won't want to miss that one as well.
Absolutely. So thank you, everybody. And again, thanks, Jane and Tanya and everyone for tuning in. And hopefully we'll see you all next week. And what day is that? That's going to be happening on April the 8th. Dr. Wayne Hammond, Connie wrote it in there at noon Mountain Standard Time. And next week as well, which is April 1st, April Fool's Day. And we'll have some fun with that for sure. But thanks, everybody. We'll chat with you soon. Take care.
Thank you.